One step at a time, one hope then another. Who knows where this road may go? I think I know where it goes. Hello friends, what is that? Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and you are at the home of the Forever Theater Kid and you are watching another installment of Bloody Broadway, Histories of Theater Mysteries. Today is our part 2 of our Anastasia and the Romanov Curse series. The first video, if you got through it, God bless, very complicated, lots of politics, lots of crimes against humanity, dark. But today I'm excited to get into another mystery of the Romanov family, which is the one that all of us, especially in the theater world and anyone who was a 90s kid that grew up defending the animated princesshood of Anastasia. So if you would like to see more about true crime and theater and how the hell I'm able to combine the two, I highly suggest that you subscribe to my channel, give this video a like. You have no idea how useful a like is to this. Please follow me on Instagram and TikTok. That's where I'm at these days, just popping in here and there when I'm not over here on the YouTubes. I find myself singing a lot on TikTok, so if you want to hear me sing, go on over there. First and foremost, I'll talk about them a little bit later in the video, but I want to mention the sponsor of today's video is Mind, Body, Money's course, The Resilient Actor. I was a test group member of this course, so I've been there from the foundation and I really believe in it, so I can't wait to tell you more about that. Mind, Body, Money, thank you so much for sponsoring this video. All of these sources of where I get my pictures, where I get the articles, the videos I've watched, they are all listed down below, so you can either fact check me, add to what I've said. If there's anything that I missed or anything that I got completely wrong, please let me know down below. Without further ado, let's get on into it. So the musical Anastasia that many of us know very well, I've never seen it. I would love to see it. The music is just incredibly beautiful, and the images, and I've had friends that are in the tour. Everything is just so gorgeous. But from reading the description and knowing the movie, the musical is much more based on fact. It's really a combination of the true historical foundations of the story of the Romanovs, and then also, you know, given a little bit of DreamWorks flair. Should have a brush with me, Emily, you fool. In the musical, we still follow the orphan Anya through her journeys of discovering who she is, which is inevitably the Princess Anastasia, who somehow escaped the Bolsheviks' attack and dethroning and exile. She somehow escaped all of that in the musical. It's a little different from the movie because in the movie, the grandmama, and Anastasia run through the servants' quarters and escape with Rasputin getting his claws on Anastasia, and then she's unable to get on the train with her grandmother, and then she falls onto the tracks. It's very dramatic. I still cry every time I see it. But in this one, it's like a little taste of the musical. We see Anastasia at the actual age that she was at the time of the revolution, which was 17, and she's running to get her music box that her grandmother gave her that plays the song Once Upon a December. It's very nice touch. And then she's captured by the Bolsheviks, and then what happens in history is what is alluded in the musical. The musical focuses a lot more on the political struggles of the people and what the people went through of Russia, and kind of like the weight of the situation is a little stronger there. The mystery of Anastasia's whereabouts and if she's possibly made it through the revolution is circling through the people. We meet Dmitri and Vlad. They're creating the biggest con in history. Can we find someone to manipulate and groom to be the Princess Anastasia? As we find out in the show, she is Anastasia from different things that she recalls that only Anastasia would know, and it's a very happy ending. It's beautiful. Well, I found this lovely quote that kind of dashes all of our dreams, but at the same time makes sense. We want to imagine the lost princess found home, love, and family in the face of terrible odds. That's devastating. This is your disclaimer, this is your trigger warning. This video will discuss attempts of suicide, murder, gun violence. So if any of those will trigger you in any way, bypass this video. I'll actually put a link to another video, a little happier video right over here. Go check that one out. That will lift your spirits. And if you ever want to come back, you are always welcome. Getting into the nitty-gritty of this crime. So, Anastasia, this bit. Anastasia was born June 28th, 1901. Anastasia means the breaker of chains in Russian, but in Greek, it also means of the resurrection, which is super creepy because everyone basically thought she resurrected from the grave and like was alive. Like I said, at the time of the exile, the Romanov coup and murder, she was 17 years old. The story of Anastasia and her possible survival was hugely mythologized in media. But it's so interesting because media really took that on and made it bigger than it was. But when she was born, Anastasia was not welcomed. She was the fourth girl of 5 children, and when she popped out, was Mom Alexandra just pissed. She was like, damn it! Another girl! And literally the whole court was just like, ooh, that sucks. The father, the Tsar, Nicholas, his sister, the Grand Duchess Xena, literally said, my God, what a disappointment, a 4th girl. Don't you just love it when you're able to control the sex of the child that you're having just to spite your family, even though having a boy at that time would help you immensely? Women, we've got an agenda. We're always trying to screw things up. Can I keep these on? That's when it's gross. Maybe I'll keep them on for a couple minutes. My eyes hurt. I'm old. Have you heard there's a rumor Emily is blind? But little did they know that Anastasia was literally gonna like run this household. Anastasia was witty. She was the little tomboy, so she wasn't afraid to get dirty. I don't know if the phrase tomboy is appropriate to use anymore. I found myself to be a tomboy when I was young. I kind of loved to do the things that the boys did, but also the things that the girls did. I just wanted to do everything. I wanted to play, I wanted to get dirty, but then like I also like, when I got older, I loved putting on dresses, but like for the first like 10 years of my life, it was like overalls or nothing. So I feel Anastasia. I get her. She's a little like trickster. She'd be like tripping her siblings all the time. But she took no shit. She was a little shitster, if anything. And she kind of grew to be the theatrical one in the family. Oh my God. I can totally relate. She knew that her purpose, her position was to entertain everyone, to keep people happy. Even until the bitter end, honestly, she was playing games with the family while they were in their exile, and just trying to keep the spirits up as much as possible. If you don't know what I'm talking about in this whole exile, you gotta go watch the first video of the series because it will make all of this make sense. One of my favorite quotes that I found is that it's from a documentary that I was watching from like the BBC, and they were just like, she ate chocolate with her gloves on. And I was like, oh my goodness. Anastasia. Silly girl. But yeah, she was the little forever theater kid of her family. She would always do impersonations of the people that were around her. She would put on little performances for the family. She knew that it was her job to try to keep the family's spirits up during their imprisonment. One of the saddest things is that she would write her tutor, who was back in St. Petersburg, saying like how sad she was that they were in imprisonment and that she couldn't find any moments of happiness. And that's really sad because she was only 17 years old. She was a freaking kid. Her dad was an awful ruler and the whole family had to pay the price. During the early morning hours of July 17th, 1918, the Romanov family, including the children and the servants and the cook and anyone who was loyal to the Romanovs, were taken down into the basement of their imprisonment and brutally murdered with guns, bayonets, and a whole lot of smoke, a whole lot of blood. It was a gruesome scene. I'm not gonna go into detail, but Anastasia did bring her little dog down there too, and the dog didn't make it out alive. I didn't like what I read. If you really want to read it yourself. I don't want to say it out loud what happened. But it was said, I saw a couple different sources say it a little differently, but it was said that Anastasia didn't die right away. She was one of the last to die. Some said that happened in the truck when they were transporting the bodies from one place to another. Others said that it was in the cellar itself, but that she woke up. I mentioned in the last video that her and her sisters had sewn jewels into their undergarments for like insurance purposes, to see that, you know, they could afford things in the future if they ever did get out alive. Maybe that's the reason why she didn't quite die from the guns that were pointed point blank at them, but that she woke up. She kind of came out of consciousness and everybody was like, whoa, and just started screaming. And that's when she was killed a second time, which is just weird. In Greek, Anastasia means the resurrection. Like, that's fucking crazy. So she basically resurrected and they killed her again. And that time with a fatal blow to the head. Super sad. And I'll get more into the burial of the family. I'll actually get more in depth than I did in the last video. The Bolsheviks, Communist Party, was responsible for murdering the Romanov family. They didn't let it be known that the entire family was murdered. So hence the myth began. They only let the people know that Nicholas, the former Tsar of Imperial Russia, was dead, and that the rest, everything else just remained a mystery. So the people didn't even know if the family escaped, that maybe they escaped to Germany, maybe they went to England, or anywhere else to seek asylum. Was let in later into the consciousness of the people that the family was also murdered. However, since it was so mysterious at the beginning, the thoughts that someone escaped had already been implemented, and the rumor began. The rumor, the myth of Anastasia surviving this attack and that she's still out there somewhere had truly began, and people started to profit off of it. When in reality, Anastasia, along with the other Romanovs, were no longer in this world, and they were thrown into a mass grave and tried to be disposed of in many, many awful ways. Anastasia, the biggest con in history. Enter in Anna Anderson. Anna Anderson, everyone. We know her as Anya. Anna Anderson was a woman who was discovered in Berlin in 1920. Anna had attempted suicide by jumping off a bridge in Berlin, and she washed up onto the shore. When she was washed up and discovered by people walking by, she refused to give up her name, so she was sent to a mental institution because, you know, women. And nurses were tending to her, trying to figure out who she was, because Anna would not speak, but they, you know, would make remarks at saying how Anna looked like a Romanov, how she looked like one of the Romanov princesses. And Anna is younger, she's about 20 years old. It's 1920, this would be the time that Anastasia is around 20 years old. So the possibility that she, age-wise, lined up completely with one of the four Romanov princesses at least. And a lot of them were patients in the hospital that would make remarks saying how Anna looked like one of the princesses, that she had certain facial features and mannerism of the princesses. Well, at first she wasn't confirming, but she wouldn't deny it. And back then, that was enough. The people, especially the people who were like kind of loyalists to the Tsar and the monarchy, the autocracy that it was, and kind of missing the good old days, they were kind of trying to find anything that they could to justify, confirm in their minds that Anna was Anastasia, the forgotten princess. So Anna saw this and she decided to capitalize on it. She concocted this whole plan, this whole belief that she was the missing princess, and that she was walking across Europe trying to find her aunt, the Grand Duchess Olga. But before then, she was known as Miss Unknown. She didn't give her identity to anybody because she couldn't tell anybody that she was the princess. Apparently this type of shit would happen a lot. People trying to escape Russia because news alert, still everybody was freaking unhappy in Russia. Or maybe not everybody, but many people. People were still starving. People were like, the communist rule was not working out the way that they had hoped. And things weren't all that much better. So it wasn't uncommon for people to seek asylum and to escape Russia and leave the country and travel through Europe to try to find their new home. And by doing so, they would do this by trying to connect with the White Russian Army, which is basically the pro-monarchy group. Yeah. There was the Red Russian Army, which was the Bolsheviks, but then there was the White Russian Army who were trying to, I guess, reestablish the status quo that had once been there. Still wasn't great at all. A lot of people starved and a lot of people died. You know, it's that idea of the devil, you know, the familiarism. Seems very familiar to me. One step at a time. You know, people would say, well, how did you escape, Anastasia? Like, how did you get out of it? She's like, well, she's going to tell. She'd say how she was shot and she was unconscious, but she woke up outside the cellar and she ran away. Remember how we said in the last video how the Bolshevik guards were starting to take a liking to the girls, especially Maria? Get a girl, get a Maria. She was of marrying age. She had children, so it was the time that, you know, she was thriving. She said that one of the guards had fallen in love with her, a Bolshevik guard who was going to kill her. What a love story. And that he rescued her. They ran away. Honestly, that wasn't unheard of. So she was on the run for years with her lover, and then he died in a street fight, so he wasn't there with her anymore. And so she was like, nobody's going to believe me that I'm Anastasia. And that was what drove her to try to commit suicide, because she didn't think anybody would believe her and she had nowhere to go. That was Anna's story.
Sounds legit to me. Checks all the boxes.
Do you need to fact check?
No.
She is a woman though.
Yeah. But she's got the same feet as some of the Romanovs, so
So a lot of Romanovs, people who were descendants and had probably escaped the purge that had happened and had gotten through exile and stuff and were distant relatives, whether in Germany or in England, believed it was her. They thought, you know, they grasped onto this hope that one of the people from that awful night had survived somehow. Hey, it's okay. Daisy, I know, it's a very devastating story. Do you wish that Anastasia you also wish that Anastasia had lived? I know. It's tough. No, Rasputin's not in the musical, he's only in the movie. A lot of Romanov descendants did believe her, a lot didn't. There were a lot of people that were called czarists, who were basically the loyalists to the monarchy, that did believe her and actually took care of her, paid for her bills, paid for her living expenses. They believed her to be Anastasia. She kind of took them for all they were worth, in a way. They gave her legal advice and legal action because the Romanov family was just like, if in any way she is proven to be a Romanov, and we don't think she is, she's gonna inherit the fortune. The fortune. And they didn't want that to happen. In the musical, we're led to believe that the Bolsheviks are still trying to hunt Anastasia. I don't think that was really a thing that happened. I think it's just like a really good plot line. I did read somewhere that the Bolsheviks I kind of didn't mind. I can't imagine that the Bolshevik party completely thought it was cool that like people were impersonating Anastasia. I don't think anyone was like trying to hunt her down. Anna Anderson was just clearly like, I'm Anastasia! Like she wasn't trying to like cover anything up, you know, aside from the truth. Because it was just weird, like she knew so much. She knew so many facts that people were like, how do you know that? She had distinctive feet of Anastasia, but it's like, who took pictures of her feet? Like I said earlier, she exhibited similar mannerisms and had similar facial features to Anastasia. At first people thought she was maybe Maria or Tatiana, and they were like, nah, those are Anastasia feet. Those feet, those are Anastasia feet. What grown people could verify a young girl's feet? Who's a Rasputin now? The weird thing was when she was in the hospital and people would come to visit her, she didn't speak any Russian. Anastasia was Russian. She didn't recognize some of the Romanov descendants that came to visit her, which was like, you didn't say you had amnesia for anything else. And she's like, who are you? Who are you? I don't know who you are, but I'm Anastasia, who are you? So the Dowager Empress Marie, who was the grandmother of Anastasia, freaking hated Alexandra. And she refused. She was like, I'm not meeting her. I'm not doing it. I'm not meeting her. So Olga, who was the sister of the Tsar, okay, so they must have escaped the purge. Like they got out of Russia somehow. And Anastasia's tutor, who, when I mentioned the letters that were sent right before her death, were sent to this tutor, went to go see her to kind of be like, look, we really knew her. Dowager Empress, like, chill, like, we'll let you know. They saw her and Olga was just like, it was like looking at a stranger. This bitch is not Anastasia. Tutor was just like, same what she said. She lost the lawsuit. She wasn't proven to be Anastasia at all, but that bitch, she was just like, no, I'm Anastasia and I'm gonna stay that way. That's who I am, Anastasia. So she held on to that lie for the rest of her life. And she convinced a dude to marry her under the pretense that she was Anastasia. She married a Virginian genealogist professor named John Monahan, who was 18 years younger than her. Get it? And she held on to that false identity, like I said, for the rest of her life. Despite the lawsuits that she lost, despite not gaining any of the Romanov wealth, she was just like, whatever, I'm gonna live in Charlottesville, Virginia with my man John over here. I'm gonna live a Grey Gardens type of life and ain't nobody gonna tell me otherwise. And that's what they did. Unfortunately, they lived in a gross situation. Very Grey Gardens-esque. They were living in squalor. There were dog cans everywhere, dog food cans everywhere. Their beds were surrounded by trash. I mean, that type of situation is extremely sad because that just really points to mental health issues. I mean, her husband I didn't really read anything up on him, but he was either also unwell or kind of enabling the entire situation. He believed her. He thought she was Anastasia. He was like, I'm married to Imperial Greatness. So, but that brought Anna into and out of mental institutions. I hope that's the right verbiage.
I don't think the wording is mental institutions. I'm seeing psychiatric treatment places, mental health facilities, rather than institution. I'm not sure if institution has bad connotation, but I think the more updated way of saying it would be a psychiatric treatment center. I also want to just take a second to say, I feel as if I'm coming off like I'm mocking Anna. She clearly was not a well woman, but at the same time, she fooled a lot of people and hurt a lot of people in her lies. I do think she took it upon herself to continue this ruse as Anastasia. I think it's sad that no one was really there to help her in getting the help that she needed. She assumed the identity of another woman, especially like royalty, and one that kind of held a lot of political weight, but she clearly wasn't well. Yeah, I just want to address that. I'm sorry if that is coming off as insensitive. There needed to be accountability for this woman's lies. Ill or not ill, accountability still needs to be held true. It's easier said than done, especially back then when there wasn't enough treatment for people with mental health issues. She still needed to be held accountable, and that's what my intent is to hold her accountable for her lies.
But she was cared for by the czarists, the people that were like obsessed with, you know, the return of the monarchy. Apparently, I read very quickly that there was this one story of very soon before her death, she was being held at one institution, and she was there for a couple of months, and then her husband, John, came to break her out and held people at gunpoint until he surrendered. I didn't really read anything else about it. I was just like, that seems like a major plot point. Did he get arrested? Like, or were they just like, that John, I mean, if he was white, he probably was. But then a couple of months after that, Anna died. Yeah, she died in 1984. And after her death, her DNA was tested to see if she was really one of the Romanovs, because DNA was really just getting its start. And honestly, like, the Romanov family was like the true crime family of the century, and this scandal went right along with it, so people wanted clear-cut answers. Anna Anderson was not even Anna Anderson. Her real name was Franziska
Shanskowska. Franziska Shanskowska.
Her real name was Franziska Shanskowska. Yes. And she was identified by her brother. She was a unrelated Polish woman. She worked in a factory. Scars that were all over her body that con artist formerly known as Anna said that she got in the attack of the Romanov attack. Those scars actually were from a factory explosion. She wasn't Anastasia. And it brought just such a sadness to the people, because they were just like, well, that sucks. But somehow she managed to live for 63 years under this assumed identity. She basically took on another woman's life. Her scam was depicted in multiple things. It was a play, it was an animated movie, a musical, TV depictions, novels, you name it. I'm sure there's gonna be something on TikTok about it if there isn't already, like Anastasia TikTok, Romanov TikTok. I'm sure it's there. Check it out. True crime of the century. And now, a word from our sponsor. I just wanted to take a quick minute to thank our sponsor and to tell you a little bit about Mind, Body, Money and their courses, The Resilient Actor and The Resilient Self. These are mindset and brain training courses. This program was designed to help actors be able to kind of separate themselves from their work, especially if they're working on a really tough piece. Like when I was in cabaret, I played, and that was really hard to come home after being in a show in which I was such a villainous human, and to come home and be like, I guess I'm just Emily, trying her best to be an ally every day. Like, it was really hard to separate that. And I really wish I had that course at this time. It's a brain training course, and it's based in neuroplasticity. So you know when people are like, oh my God, just like manifest like your deepest desires and you're gonna have them. I wish. Hi, I have anxiety and depression. I wish. It just doesn't happen for people people who are so in their minds as much, and especially when the negative thoughts take over. So what this course does, or what it's done for me, is it really helps create the foundation of how I can talk to myself and build myself up from the inside out, so that like outside forces and outside like circumstances can't penetrate what's already been resilient in me. It's backed in science, so it sounds woo-woo, but it's kind of that like scientific foundation to kind of help you get to that place of being like, I'm gonna manifest a great career because I believe in myself. The Resilient Actor and the Resilient Self courses teach you how to believe in yourself so you don't need someone else to tell you they believe in you. So I'm really excited. I have a special code for you. If you just go to the link that is in the description box down below, choose either course, either the Resilient Actor or the Resilient Self, which are basically the same course. One is just geared more towards actors and the other one is just geared for normal people who just want to like open up their creative mind a little bit. I'm taking the course again, so when it's next available. So I suggest if you want to sign up, the next course will be in March. So definitely sign up before February, the end of February. I'll put that information down below. Yeah, I've got a special discount code for you. It takes 75% off the price of the course. 75% off? Are you kidding me? Go check out the link below to find out more information about the Resilient Actor and the Resilient Self and Mind, Body, Money. Daisy, are you resilient? So thank you, Mind, Body, Money, for sponsoring this video, and I hope to see you in the course. If you're gonna take it, let me know down below. Let's get back into the video. Let's go wrap this video up. So you remember Urofsky, the dude that got the order from Lenin to murder the whole family? He was getting nervous when he killed 10 people. How many people did he kill? A lot of people. And he was just like,
Ugh, the White Russian army is close by. They are gonna find us. Not good. All these guards, they all saw where we put the bodies. I don't know if I trust them.
So on July 19th, Urofsky exhumed the bodies and like brought them like further down the road. And he buried them in 2 shallow mass graves in this place called Pig's Meadow. This sucks. So in one grave there were 9 bodies, and in another grave there were 2 bodies. These graves were untouched until 1979, when local Russian filmmakers and genealogists went bone hunting for the Romanov body. They were like, we have an idea, this is where they are, because this is where they were murdered, so this is where we think they are, and let's go looking for them. And then they found them. Like, they're like, oh, right there. Oh, there's just these like dirt covered and like wooden planked little spots right there. With the government still being like not great, they were too afraid to really uncover what was there. But they knew where they were, and they were just like, shh, don't tell nobody, but this is where they are. But we'll come back when it's like super safe. And that wasn't until the early 90s. So in 1991, they went back to the graves and exhumed them and went in for DNA testing. This is when a really complicated subject of mitochondrial DNA was brought to the table. From my understanding, mitochondrial DNA is DNA that is taken from like the mother's bloodline, and by doing so that would help like determine who's in the graves and like if the children were that of the female line. So basically, the surviving members of the female line, which was Alexandra, and like the German side of her line, we still had some people that were alive. Mainly Prince Philip. Yeah, that Prince Philip, who's still freaking alive today. He was actually the grand nephew of Alexandra, the Tsarina. With me? Cool. So since the mitochondrial DNA goes through the female bloodline, he had that DNA. That DNA of Prince Philip was compared to the bodies, and it was found in 4 of the bodies that were in the first grave that they found. They actually didn't find the smaller grave with the 2 bodies in it. They only found the first mass grave. So it was determined that most of the bodies that were in the first mass grave was Alexandra and 3 of her daughters. Remember, there's 5 children. 1 is a boy, and there are 4 girls. From the acid and the attempted cremations, a lot of the bone fragments were just that, because remember, there were also servants, and Nikolai and the former Tsar were also in those graves, but they weren't identified through the mitochondrial DNA. But it was determined the male body that they found was Nicholas, and then there's Alexandra and the 4 daughters. Where's Alexei? Where's Anastasia? I mean, it just kind of gave further, like, did Anastasia and Alexei actually survive? Like, oh my God. We're like, well, we gotta do more DNA testing on her. This is kind of gross. So they exhumed Anna's body, and from her intestines, took DNA from there to see if it was a match with the mitochondrial DNA, because it would. If she was Anastasia, that would be a 100% match. And it did not match. So it was incredibly impossible for Anna to be part of the Romanov family at all. So she was just a con artist. And then in 2007, 2 more bodies were found in a different grave very close to the Romanovs' first mass grave. And there was in there a male and a female. And DNA testing, which was even more advanced now, determined that the male was Alexei and that the female was actually Maria. It was established that Anastasia was one of the 3 daughters found in the first mass grave, and Maria was in the second. So what's crazy is that Anastasia's body was technically found and discovered before any of the mythology around Anastasia kind of became pop culture, at least to me. In 1991, when the first grave was discovered and tested for DNA, wasn't alive and trying to find her way towards Paris to find her grandmama, like, and fall in love with Dimitri. Like, none of that was true. So for the longest time, I will say, like, I thought she survived. I just thought that those stories were true. It wasn't until delving into this that I was like, oh, there's no way that she made it. So the story was just that, a myth that got completely blown out of proportion. So y'all, that is the end of my Romanov series, of my Bloody Broadway Romanov series. Holy crap, this was so much, but it was so interesting to learn about. It was something that I'd always been curious about and really never taken the time. Super, super interesting. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you stuck around. Bless if you did. I'm gonna get going. My dog is really trying to play, so I should play with her. Like Anastasia, I should go play with my puppy. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Mind, Body, Money, and The Resilient Actor for sponsoring this video. So cool. Go check out that link down below and use my code. If you have any other ideas of true crime and theater-related content, whether it's ghost story or anything like that, tell me down below. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to get some ideas from you. We'll see you next time. So as we close out every single one of these Bloody Broadway videos, Puck's monologue, let's go. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram, follow me on the Tiki-Taki, and we'll see you in my next one. Else the Puck a liar call, so good night until you all. So give me your hands if we be friends, and Robin shall restore amends.